Foreclosures in Vancouver are surging, and the spike in new listings, along with how low some of these homes are actually selling for, it might surprise you. I represent the Bank of Montreal for some of their foreclosures in Vancouver, so I have seen firsthand how these sales unfold, from working with delinquent owners to the moment the judge approves the final offer in court. In this episode, I'm breaking down how the foreclosure process works within the province of British Columbia. Then I'm going to show you how many properties are in foreclosure across the Lower Mainland. And lastly, show you exactly how low some of these homes are selling for. Are buyers getting once-in-a-decade deals? Are the buyers aware of some of the pretty extreme risks that are involved within foreclosures? I'm going to answer those questions, and by the end of this video, you'll know what's really happening behind the scenes in Vancouver's growing foreclosure market. Let's take a look. Starting off, let's get a quick understanding of what a foreclosure actually is and the process involved to get it to the courts. Quite simply, the process begins when the borrower, the mortgager, fails to meet the terms of their mortgage, typically by missing a number of monthly payments, failing to pay property taxes or insurance, or breaching other mortgage conditions. Once in default, the lender, the bank, typically will send out a demand letter, which will give the homeowner about 7 to 10 days to get current with their loan. If the borrower does not remedy the default, the lender files for a petition of foreclosure in the BC Supreme Court. The petition is then served to all the involved parties. This petition, or order nisi, covers 3 aspects. It confirms the debt owed to the lender. It sets a redemption period, which is typically 6 months, giving the borrower a final opportunity to pay the amount owed in full. And number 3, it grants the lender certain rights if the borrower does not redeem. So during this redemption period, the homeowner has a couple options. They can simply pay the whole debt and keep the property, or they can try and sell the property privately, often still requiring court approval. This is essentially a last chance grace period for the borrower. This grace period, it typically lasts about 6 months. If the borrower does not pay up during that redemption period, well, then the lender can take next steps. After the redemption period expires, the lender typically applies for what's called an order for conduct of sale. This order, well, it gives the lender control of the sale process, and it allows them to list the property with a real estate agent, market and show the home, and accept offers, which are of course subject to court approval. At this stage, the property is publicly marketed as a court-ordered sale. That's what we call them here in Greater Vancouver. Banks ultimately act similar to homeowners in the sense that they try to sell that property for the highest amount possible. For example, let's say a property is worth about 1.5 on the open market, but the homeowner only owes 1 million to the bank. Well, the bank doesn't go out there and list it for, let's say, 1.1 to get a quick sale and get their money back. They actually will list it for what is considered market value. When a bank is working with a realtor, that realtor representing the foreclosure will actually do a full comparative market analysis, demonstrating to the bank what that property is worth on the open market, like what the true market value is, along with a very comprehensive marketing plan. So they are treated as the valuable asset that they are. In my experience, it's fairly common as well that the bank will actually list slightly above what the comparative market analysis shows the true market value to be. Once that property is listed, the process is similar to a typical resale property whereby you will conduct open houses, offer private showings, and just get as many buyers through the property as possible. When an offer is submitted, it is negotiated like any other, only the seller is now the lawyers representing the bank. With an accepted offer in place, the buyers now go through their typical diligence process whereby they will get their financing approved and typically do a home inspection and so forth. Now, where it differs, of course, is that the seller has a subject to court approval. So once the buyers have removed their subject, the court approval subject remains. And then the next step is that the accepted offer price is posted to the MLS, often in the Realtor remarks section. Previously interested parties are notified of that accepted offer price, and they're given the opportunity to present an offer at the court date. The court date typically comes somewhere around 4 to 6 weeks after that accepted offer is in place with no buyer subjects remaining. Fast forward to the court date now, and this is typically what happens. The seller's lawyers, the bank's lawyers, are present along with the buyers and their realtor of the accepted offer. The listing agent representing the bank and the lawyers is present as well. At the hearing, the judge will first have a look at the existing offer along with a submitted marketing report that the realtor submits to show the marketing efforts that were made for that property. Any other interested parties in that property, this is their opportunity where they can submit an offer as well. Their offer must be completely subject free, have all the terms and conditions and dates outlined by the bank's lawyers, and it all comes down to price. They already know the accepted offer price, so it must come in higher than that. It's actually quite common for at least decent properties to see multiple offers submitted at the court date. One important risk to point out here is that even though the buyers have gone through the home and they've seen it, maybe even had it inspected, and other interested buyers have gone through and seen it and obviously want to make an offer as well, these homes, these properties are sold, quote, as is, where is. And what that means is that the banks, who are typically now the owners of this property, they do not guarantee or warrant in any way what the condition of that property is going to be upon completion and possession. That means that should the occupant still be in the home during the process of the court date and the hearing and all the way up until keys are handed over to the new owners, if that occupant were to say, remove the appliances, take a sledgehammer to some of the walls, none of that is the responsibility of the bank. And you basically walk in and say, oh, I guess this is what I bought. So there is a high degree of risk there. I will say damage is uncommon, but it's not unheard of either. So just a pretty high level risk to be aware of if you are considering buying a foreclosure. That is quite unlike a traditional sale, where essentially the seller is contractually bound to deliver the home in ultimately the same condition as when the buyer previously saw it. So buying a foreclosure does come with a pretty high level of risk. So make sure you talk to an agent who's experienced with these and can walk you through the best ways to protect you. Okay, back to the court now. So the judge, let's say multiple offers were submitted. They had the original offer, and then they had maybe 2 or 3 other ones submitted as well. Do note, the original purchaser can come back and submit another offer as well. It will be another sealed bid like the other ones, with, again, the only thing that's different is the price that's on there. So they do have another shot, right? If you come in and you see, oh, wow, there's definitely other people in the court that look to be offering on this property, well, you can have a secondary bid prepared and even write that final purchase price at the last second based on how many competitors you see in the room. The judge then will open up all the sealed bids and essentially just look at each price. They call out the highest one, and that buyer has bought that home right then and there. Oh, side note as well, every one of these offers that is submitted at the courts, they all have a copy of the deposit, typically 5%, in there as well. So these are subject-free, ready to go firm deals, all in hand, all placed in front of the judge. Whichever offer is the highest, that deal becomes firm and binding right there in front of the court. Possession of the home is typically 2 weeks after that deal has gone firm. And now you might be curious as to what happens with the sale proceeds. Where does the money from the sale go? Well, first off, the bank, the lender, gets their money first, which does include the principal amount, any interest, and sometimes legal costs as well. Remaining funds are then distributed to further claimants. This would be like a second mortgage on title or a lien, that type of thing. And lastly, should there be any outstanding funds still remaining from that point, well, those are actually given to the previous owner. Now, in the case that the sale proceeds do not cover the entire initial debt, the lender can seek what's called a deficiency judgment. It's a court order allowing them to pursue the borrower for the shortfall, though this depends on whether it's a recourse or non-recourse mortgage. But essentially, that initial homeowner might not be off the hook quite yet. Okay, so now that you understand the process of how a court-ordered sale works in Greater Vancouver, let's move on now and have a look at the numbers. How many foreclosures are out there right now? How many have sold? And what kind of sale prices are buyers achieving? Okay, here we are. I'm going to now show you all the foreclosures that are available in Greater Vancouver. We're going to start with detached. We have to look at them all one by one because there's no singular section to check them all out. So here we are with detached. As you can see in the top left corner here, there are a total of 62 detached homes available as a court order sale today across Greater Vancouver. When we look at attached homes, so that's your condos, your townhomes, your duplexes, there are a total of 90 available today. Next up is multifamily. These are essentially properties that have 4 or more doors. You can see here there are 2 available as court ordered sale. And lastly, land. Yes, you can pick up vacant land as a court ordered sale. And today there are 8 available. So in total, there are 162 court order sales available today. When we compare that to the total amount of listings available, well, there's just under 17,900. So as a percentage, you're looking at about 0.9% of total active inventory today is a foreclosure. So about less than 1%. So how does that stack up to historical numbers? Well, have a look at this chart. As you can see, going back to 2019, about 5 years of data we have here, it peaked around mid 2019 at 80, but then it had a downward trend all the way to the recent cycle low in mid or early 2023 when there were just 20 total. Clearly, you can see the upward trajectory since then, whereas today, as I just mentioned, about 162 are available. So this has gone up over 100% in just the last year, September to September. It's about 105% increase. So pretty notable. There's obviously something changing in the foreclosure marketplace today. If you are interested in receiving a list of all the foreclosures that are available today, just let me know. You can type in the comments which type of foreclosure you're interested in. Just type in either detached or attached or land or multifamily. Type in any or all of those words, and I will send you the link to have a look at all the available foreclosures today. Now, let's get into the sale prices. What type of deals are people getting on these properties? We're going to start with detached and look at all the listings that have sold year to date in 2025. When you check out these numbers here at the top, kind of in the middle, you can see that there's been a total amount of foreclosures sold to the tune of $111 million. That was the list price. Sale price, 110,361,000. So this shows you that ultimately the list to sale price is less than 1% difference. So typically you're not going to see a crazy quote unquote deal based on the list price. Now, caveat here, this is a comparison to the most recent list price. So sure, if something listed at 1.5, then dropped to 1.3, well, now you're seeing that sale price within 1% of 1.3. So it's not completely correlated apples to apples, but you get where I'm going here. When we look at the average list price, 3.175 million, average sold price, 3.153 million. So again, it's really close. But as always, there are outliers, and I want to show you the biggest one year to date. So this listing here in West Vancouver at 565 St. Giles Road was originally listed at 1.953 million and ended up selling for 1,751,000. So that is a reduction of about 11%, almost 12% off of the list price. And that year to date is the biggest percentage drop that we've seen. And when we look at further details on this one, we can see down here, the accepted offer price on this one was actually 1.71 million, which means this went to the courts and there was at least one other buyer who submitted their blind bid and won this property at 1.751. How does this property stack up when we look at the BC assessment? Well, BC assessment considers this property to be worth 2.264 million. So somebody picked this up for, $500,000 ish under the assessed value. Some could definitely consider that a pretty big win. Let's have a look at condos now. Year to date, there have been 41 condos that have gone to the courts and sold firm. When we look at the prices, again, a similar story. Look at the total list price of $33,664,000 compared to the total sold price, $33,200,000. Again, less than a 1% difference between the list to the purchase price. So similar to detached, we're seeing these properties go for basically what they're listed for. But again, there's going to be an outlier. This is the biggest one. This condo in Richmond on Arcadia Road, originally listed for $840,000. They dropped it to $793,800. They dropped it again to $772,800. And this ended up selling for, at the courts, for $681,000. That is 19% below that original list price. And again, when we look at the BC assessed value, this one is considered to be worth $781,000. This was picked up for $681,000, or about $100K under the assessed value. Again, these buyers clearly thought that was the right number and could be considered getting a pretty good deal on a foreclosure. So there you have it. Vancouver's foreclosure market is small, but it is growing fast. While foreclosures still make up less than 1% of all listings in Greater Vancouver, the number has more than doubled year over year, and that's something we have not seen in a long time. Most are selling very close to the list price, but every so often, a rare deal will slip through, and some savvy buyers are picking up homes at deep discounts. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you found today's episode insightful. If you are considering a foreclosure and would like to work with someone who's experienced in them, I'd love to help. We can connect, I can answer all your questions and let you know what's happening on the marketplace. Feel free to reach out anytime. All my contact information is below. Thanks so much and take care.